Jordan Peele left us with an outstanding ending in his masterpiece breakout film Get Out, so it shouldn't come as a surprise that we were given the same for his sophomore effort, Us. Us, however, definitely raised some more questions than Get Out's ending, so let's use this time to dive deep into what the ending meant for the story of the film and clear it up a bit, shall we? Of course, this contains massive spoilers for the film, so watch this at your own risk. At the end of the film, we discover that Adelaide was actually taken and switched out by her doppelganger Red when Adelaide visited the House of Mirrors as a kid. Thus, for the rest of this video, I'll be referring to this woman as Red and this woman as Adelaide, because that's who they really are. This switch explains the reason why she didn't talk as a kid and was taken to a therapist. Doppelgangers don't talk. Every doppelganger we meet in the film cannot speak, and the only reason why Red can speak was because she was taught how to as a result of her getting written up as having PTSD. This also explains why Adelaide has a raspy voice for throughout the film. Her larynx was damaged as a result of getting choked by Red as a kid. This switch also explains how Red knew exactly where to go at the end of the film when she entered the House of Mirrors trying to find Jason. She grew up in the underground and has no issue finding her way back. The Tethered, for much of their existence, did not have free will and could only act based upon what their real selves were doing. Adelaide was actually raised with the Tethered and taught the Tethered how to break this bond so that the Tethered can finally act for themselves. This may be the reason why Jason's Tethered still has some sort of mirrored connection with his real self. The Tethered hasn't fully learned how to break that bond yet. Adelaide grew up knowing only anger and hatred as a result of being left behind by Red, and decides to lead an uprising in an act of revenge by leading the Tethered to execute the Hands for America stunt. We're introduced to the concept of Hands for America at the very beginning of the film, as Adelaide watches TV by means of a commercial. Hands for America aimed to raise funds for America's homeless and hungry by creating one humongous human chain, hand in hand, from one end of America to the other for 15 minutes. This sounds absolutely ridiculous and impossible for humans today to actually accomplish, but Adelaide manages to convince the Tethered to go along with it and make it happen, seeing as how the Tethered were actually hungry and homeless for as long as they existed, feeding only on rabbits as their sole source of food. Speaking of rabbits, Zora's shirt or sweater throughout the entirety of the film actually says rabbit in Vietnamese. The reason why the Tethered wear red in the film is because of the Hands for America logo, which shows red people holding hands. Let's take a deeper look into the actual message of the film. Jordan Peele told the Los Angeles Times this exact statement: "The feeling that we all feel we are the good guy in our own story prevents us from facing our demons. We are in a time where we fear the other. Whether the mysterious invader who might kill us or take our jobs, or the faction that doesn't live near us that voted differently than we did. Maybe the evil is us. Maybe the monster we're looking at has our face." This certainly is a hard concept to wrap our heads around, but the misleading of good and evil is definitely apparent with the film. We're led to believe that the humans in this film are who we should be rooting for, while the doppelgangers are who we should be rooting against. However, we learned our main protagonist was actually a doppelganger the entire time, with the human we were supposed to be rooting for plotting out revenge against all humankind for what she suffered through. Peele isn't necessarily making the argument that both sides are bad, but instead is trying to say that we all have bad behaviors and qualities and have all performed a bad deed at least once in our lives, and if left unchecked, those bad tendencies will come back to you and lead to our downfall. We learn towards the end of the film that the doppelgangers are actually a result of government experimentation, which makes no sense to me, but whatever. This government experimentation may actually be connected to something that Zora said near the beginning of the film. that the government has been poisoning the rivers. John Boone from Entertainment Tonight raises several amazing points about this. That while real-life human beings may not actually be the result of government experimentation, we are clearly the result and product of our political state and the state of our government. Boone goes on to mention that the reason why the Tylers, that white family that Adelaide's family were associated with at the beach, died so quickly was because they leaned so heavily into their evil and dangerous impulses with their self-centeredness and superficiality. Their bad tendencies, represented by their doppelgangers, caught up to them quickly and destroyed them just as easily. We end the film with a couple of stares from Adelaide's son Jason, who gives his mother a glare as they drive down the road. He knew something was fishy, and it all started the moment he walked in on his mother murdering the Tyler daughter doppelganger in that living room. Red showcased some truly brutal tendencies and screamed and yelled as a doppelganger does, and exhibited those same qualities when Red rescues Jason at the end of the film. Having never seen this side of his mom before, he knows something is up. The mother he grew up with never showed this side of her until her dark past finally caught up to her. Another interesting thing to note is that Red, as she kills more of the tethered, ends up getting more and more blood on her until she's nearly drenched in it. The rest of her family are okay, but with the amount of red she has on her clothes by the end of the film, it's clearly easy to see her connection to the tethered, seeing as how all the tethered were red in the film. There's so much more to dissect about the film that I definitely was not able to get to, so if you have any points about the ending of the film, make sure to mention in the comments below. If you like today's content, make sure to like and subscribe and check out our review of the film.